Okay, in this next video, we're going to talk about Wwise playlists and how playlists interact with segments and tracks and WAV files, the previous videos that we have. I'm going to create another new Wwise session, and I'm going to call it demonstration. And this we're going to demonstrate playlists. So I'll do playlists. I don't need any of these fancy plugins, so I'll hit OK, and it will place that on my desktop. Okay. Layouts, interactive music, because we're dealing with the interactive music structures. First thing that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to build some things. And so some quick shortcuts that I have. If I go ahead and find some WAV files on my hard drive, like these ones here, I can drag them directly into my interactive music hierarchy. When I do that, it asks me what I want to do. And what it's going to do by default is create a music segment. This is kind of cool. So now when I go into it, it's created a music segment with a track with that WAV file directly on the track itself, which is really great. Now, MX Layer 1, that's the name of the file, but actually this is a segment. So I'm going to call it segment 1. Okay? It won't reset until I click off of it and click back on, but that's segment 1, and then this is actually a track. The reason why I'm renaming these is because it's just a little bit easier to understand the overall structure if we're able to kind of name them correctly. So we have a segment, then inside that we have a track. So you can go up here and you can see, oh, segment, track. All right, that makes sense. Now we're talking about playlists. Now a playlist contains more than one segment. So a playlist is exactly like a playlist within, say, iTunes or Spotify or Tidal. It is a sequence of music tracks or music cues that I can play back to back or in random order. That's what we're going to be creating. So I'm going to need two segments. So that's segment 1. I'm going to go ahead and create segment 2. So another segment, I'll call it segment 2. I'll do this the old-fashioned way by importing my second layer. Okay, going to import that. So now segment 2 also has a track in it. Because I created the segment first as opposed to dragging the WAV file in, it messed up my loop points. So I'm just going to drag my loop to the end here so that I have a full, so that loops the full thing. All right, so I have a segment and segment 1 and segment 2. I'm going to go ahead and rename this as a track, because that's what it is. Just so that's a little easier to sort of keep track of. So we have segment 1 and segment 2. When I play segment 1, this is what we hear. When I play segment 2, this is what I hear. Oops. Now, it's interesting, you may notice down the transport control, it actually didn't switch to segment 2. Sometimes I have to double click to get it to switch. And sometimes that doesn't even work. That's because this button is on, which is called the pin, which means that only stays on the one thing. When I switch, I want to switch dynamically, but I can stop it from doing that. So I unpin it. Now when I go to segment 2, I go back to segment 1, and then to segment 2, it will change down here in the transport control. So I'll hear it segment 2. So they're basically two loops. The second one that we just played has more of a ride symbol in it. This is important now that we want to get into playlists. So I can take these two segments, basically I can highlight everything, and then right click, oops, I guess I have to close these up first. Here are my two segments, and I can right click, new parent. So WAV files go into tracks, tracks go into segments, segments go into playlists. So we'll go ahead and create a new playlist container, and that playlist basically contains the segments, which contains the tracks, and each track contains WAV files. All right, my playlist right now has nothing in it. Over here in the hierarchy, it has segment 1 and 2 in it, but it doesn't actually have anything. So if I play the playlist container right now, I can't even play it because there's nothing in it. So creating playlists is a two-step process. You kind of create your segments. After you create your segments, you drag them into your playlist, but it doesn't work yet. You actually have to pull these segments into your playlist in the order that you want them to play. So segment 1 plays first, segment 2 plays next. When I play these, it will basically, oh, look, I'm looking at segment 2, which is not good. I want to play my playlist. So now I'm playing my playlist. It will play segment 1. This is an 8-bar loop, so wait 8 bars, and that will go on to segment 2. Some other things to look at over here are your loop count. Right now, it's just going to play back once, but I can change it to play back twice or even an infinite amount of time. And you can see then it went on to segment 2, which is next. Again, this is only play once before it stops. So wait another 4 bars or so, a couple bars, and then it will stop. Now, if I randomly wanted to go through these, I could do that too. Right now, it's sequence continuous, which means that it will just play from top to bottom. Sequence steps means that it will pick one of these and stop. So step means it will only pick one before it stops. It will just, and then random continuous means that will play 1 and then 2 and then stop. Or again, I can infinitely loop random continuous, and then it will randomly pick everything. And then lastly, we have random step. Now, the steps have to do with groups. So the way that groups work is that I can have multiple groups set up so that I can have first a random step where it's basically going to let me drag some things around so this will make sense a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to create another group here. Okay, and then do something like this. Okay, so because this is random step, it's going to pick either this sequence continuous or this sequence continuous when it plays. So if I play this, it will pick one of those. Oops, I'm listening to segment 1. I want to go back up to my playlist container. So now I'm playing on the playlist. It decided to pick the second one, which has 8 bars of segment 1 and then 8 bars of segment 2. Because it's step, when it's done, it will just stop, because that's the end. So you can create these new groups to create very complex sequences. So now we're past the first 8 bars, now we're in that second 8 bars. And when it's done, it will be done. But I could add in more groups below this that would do whatever I wanted them to do. And then it finishes up. And that basically explains how playlists work. And in another video, we're going to talk about pre and post entry regions, which are your loop points. That's coming up. Next, we're going to talk about switch containers. Switch containers contain playlists. Playlists contain segments. Segments contain tracks and WAV files. So we're going to talk about that next and see you on the other side.